Okay, we're recording. Good afternoon, everyone. We're Thursday, January 26th, and this is our Growing Your Instagram workshop. So I'm really happy to be doing this workshop with you because I know we've had conversations about it either individually or as a group. So this will be an opportunity to go back, look at best practices on Instagram. Also talk about all these new features, right? Those new features that have appeared, or, because one thing we need to always keep in mind is that, was it last year or the year before? I'm not sure if it's 2015 or 16, but Instagram was acquired by Facebook. So Facebook owns Instagram now. So because of that, we can expect that Instagram will constantly have new features to offer, but also it will have more of the Facebook feel to it, meaning that engagement is going to be more and more important because Facebook has introduced the algorithm in Instagram as well. So the game today that you play on Instagram is much different than it was 3 years ago. So it's quite unfair to yourself. I want to start with that. It's quite unfair to yourself if you're hitting yourself on the head and saying, why does this person have 100,000 followers and I can't even get 200, right? Well, that's absolutely normal because the people who got supposedly easily, which I don't believe, but whatever, 100,000 or 500,000 followers started a long time ago, way before you did. And also when they started, the rules of engagement and the rules to play on Instagram weren't the same as they were today. Okay, so we're gonna talk about all of that in this presentation. So I have slides, but like I was saying before I started the recording, I want this to be a conversation. So because I want this to be helpful to you, so feel free to interrupt me, ask me questions, share what your struggles are, so we can talk about them. I've also opened up a couple of Instagram feeds that are doing well, of artists who are doing well on Instagram, to show you a little bit what they're doing. Very different styles, so you can see a little bit how different styles present their work. But as always, this is about you. I have a bunch of notes that I wrote in different notebooks, so I'm gonna try to sound relevant. But anyway, if you're losing me, please let me know. If I'm going too fast, let me know. And yeah, so I'm just going to get started with the slides because we have a lot of people who join now. And like I said, please feel free to interrupt me anytime because I'm doing this for you. Okay, sharing my screen. Let's make this work. Also, you should know that I don't necessarily see all the time the comments when I'm sharing my screen. So feel free to unmute yourself and ask. I really don't mind because I don't want to get to the end of the presentation before I answer your questions, okay? Okay, thumbs up if you're seeing the slides. Are you seeing the slides? Yes, okay, great, wonderful. Okay. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, first, the first question is Instagram right for you, right? Because we talk about that all the time when we talk about marketing strategies. You can't be everywhere. It's just impossible, and it's better to choose one or two or maybe three if you love being on social media, but channels, and be, consistent and really work at building those instead of trying to be all over the place. So the first question we're going to ask ourselves is it worth your time, basically? We're going to go back to the basics, also looking at what you need to do in your profile, what you need to do in setting yourself up because sometimes we miss opportunities just in the very basics. How hashtags work and how you can make them work for you to grow your following. Growing your following, of course, growing your following is like an ongoing theme here, because that's basically what this workshop is about. So we're going to talk about it a whole time. We're going to talk about giveaways and contests. We're going to talk about the two new features of Instagram, so Instagram stories and live video. Talk about if those are right for you in your strategy, and of course advertising on Instagram, because more and more social media has become a pay to play, right? You have to pay to play if you want to ramp up, if you're impatient, if you want things to go faster, then you have to pay to play. So that's pretty much what we're going to talk about. So at the risk of repeating myself, because these are three words that I use a lot when I talk to you about whether it's building your business, building your marketing, but it also applies to Instagram, right? Focus, consistency, and action. Okay, so if you want to grow, if you want to succeed on Instagram, you'll need to be very focused, you'll need to be consistent, and you'll need to take action. So what does that mean? Okay, so, well, what is Instagram really about? Instagram is about live, in the moment, and ephemeral content. Okay, so it's really much more about, you know, not just sharing your art, but sharing you, the artist, you, the person, what you're all about in the moment. And moreover, it's about building relationship using images, stories, and live video. Okay, so we're gonna talk about, so stories, we can talk about Instagram stories, but it's also in your messaging, right? So the way you capture the images, the way you write your captions, it's all through storytelling, right? It's, so there's the Instagram stories functionality, but whatever functionality you use, whether it's posting an image or whether it's doing live video, and that really, I gotta say, kind of applies to all social media. Okay, it's well, no, yes and no. Like Facebook and Instagram, it applies. It's about building relationship, it's about telling a story, it's about using images. And then live video, I have a caveat for that I'll tell you more about later, that if you want to do live video, we'll see if Instagram is the right way to do it or not. Okay, so what it takes to succeed on Instagram. Well, patience. Like I said earlier, the rules of engagement on Instagram have changed, and you can't expect to just skyrocket and grow your following like that, right? It's gonna take patience. It's gonna take you to take action. It's gonna require flexibility. And why I say flexibility is because the game is always changing. The algorithm is changing. The new functionalities are changing. They're always adding new things that you need to learn. So if every time Instagram comes up with something new, you're upset about it, you're stressed about it, you're negative about it, it's going to be very hard for you to succeed. You know, I think mindset is like a huge part of succeeding on Instagram, because if you're going into this like another social media they have to be on, I would so rather be in the studio, now I have to go engage, like it's not gonna work, people. Like you can't go in that mindset. You can't go in there. If you're gonna go in there like that, move away from the phone. Like simply move away from your phone, because it's just, I can understand that we get discouraged. We can understand that you think you have this great photo, this great post, and you post it and you hear crickets, and it's disappointing. But if you don't have that desire to engage, if you don't have the desire to create quality content, if you don't have that desire to be open and be yourself and share stories, it's going to be very hard for you, and it's not really going to be interesting for people to follow you. So let's just look at some data, because a lot of people are wondering if Instagram is good for them. One of the things we need to know is that there's 5 million users on Instagram. So that's an important, much more important now than Twitter, for instance. So the following, the users are growing exponentially. 50% follow brands. So why did I give you that information? Why do you care if 50% of the users are following brands? Well, because first, when Instagram started, brands weren't on it, right? It was just individuals sharing photos and using it as a platform to share images and photos. And pretty quickly, of course, brands picked up on this and started to use Instagram to promote their brand, to grow their credibility, awareness, and sell. The reason this is important for you, it means that people are interested in following brands. People are interested in seeing what you have to say and hearing about what you have to sell, right? Because if they weren't interested, then they wouldn't follow brands. So they want to be inspired by brands. They want to know what you have for sale. They want to know what businesses have going on. So that's really important to know this, as opposed to maybe another social media channel like Snapchat, right? So because a lot of people are like, Snapchat, Instagram, where should I be on? Well, the demographics and how the people are using Instagram are much more conducive you sharing your brand, your message, and selling than a Snapchat would, because people don't go on Snapchat to follow necessarily brands. Now it's starting, but not as much. It's more about personal interaction. Knowing that 50% also have a professional degree, right? So that's, I think, important, because we're talking about reaching art collectors, reaching art buyers. We know that art is not a commodity that everybody can necessarily afford or wants to buy. Usually there's a correlation between level of education and people who are interested in purchasing art. So knowing that the average income right now of the people who are on Instagram is increasing is important for us, right? Because we're not selling low ticket items. We're not selling, we want to build a brand that's seen as high end. So knowing that the average age and the average income is growing is important. I had another data. Oh yeah, one other data that I took note here was that 4% of users, 4% of people over 65 use Instagram. So that can be an important information. So if your target audience is people who are retired, then I would say maybe that's one of the places where Instagram is probably not the right place to be, because only 4% are over 65. So maybe that's not where to find them. But overall, with this information, I think, and there's plenty of more research that you can do to see if your target buyer, your target collector is in there, but chances are that they are, especially over the last 18 months that the Instagram followers has been skyrocketing. Okay, so depending on where you're at on your Instagram, I'm going to go through this very, very quickly because most of you have done this already, but I just want to make sure that you're all on the same page. So the first thing you want to do, just going back to the basics with your Instagram account, you want to create a public account, because I see that so often that artists follow me and I follow them and I go to check out their feed and their feed is private. And that's like a basic but also common mistake. Like if you don't want to share, like create 2 accounts. Like if you have a personal account, create a personal account where you share personal photos with your friends. But to sell your art, you have to have a public account, because before people follow you, they're going to want to scroll through your feed and know what they're following. The other thing you want to do is create a business account. There's no downside in creating a business account, only upside, because you have that contact button. But not only that, you'll have much more access to data about your posts. Okay, so you'll get insight and data beneath your posts, so much more relevant. And also, if at some point you want to do advertising on Instagram, you'll want to have a business account. Now your bio. Your bio should say who you are and why we should follow you. So sometimes, I'm reading like bios, and it's just like, it seems to be like an inside joke between that person and 3 of their friends, right? I don't really want to follow them. I'm not in that gang. I don't know who these people are. You need to tell me. You need to sell it to me. Like, why should I follow you? What should I expect when following you? So tell me what's there, okay? One thing I didn't mention here because I took it for granted, but just a reminder that you can only use one active link on Instagram, and it's on your profile, right? It's not in, you can't put active links in your captions, in your images descriptions. So you have to choose that link wisely, and don't be afraid to change it up, right? So if you're doing, and we'll look at it later, but if you're doing so maybe ongoing, that link will be to your website. But if you have a special opt-in offer at some point, it can be a direct link to your opt-in, to your email list. If you have a sale going on, it can be to your sales page directly. So you can update that link once in a while, depending on what you're focusing on for that week or that month. Okay, so very, very basic information. Need to make a visual impact with high quality photos and content. Yes, it takes time to create high quality photos. Yes, you need to think about it. Yes, you need to plan it. Yes, you need to play around with it. But that's, again, part of the game, right? That's why people will follow you, because you're making a visual impact. They're interested in what you have to say, and the message you're sharing, and how you're conveying it with photos. You want to be consistent in the overall look and feel of your feed. You want to go on other people's Instagram, and even I was doing some research and I was reading some forums, and people were telling me, I didn't go and see, but I read that people were saying that they go on Pinterest to get inspiration. So you can search Instagram, beautiful, cohesive, consistent Instagram feeds on Pinterest, and then use those boards as inspiration for their own feed. Okay, so you can do some sort of that kind of research. But what you want, so some people like create amazing feeds that everything is calculated, and like every other day they have an image, a caption. Anyway, you don't have to go into all that trouble if that's not what your brand is about. Okay, so your success on Instagram is not directly correlated. If I have that perfect feed, I'll have that super following, and the opposite, right? It's not necessarily like that. I think it's just finding that right balance between having a great looking feed, not a perfect looking feed, but a great looking feed, creating valuable content, and then engagement. Engagement is key. So you'll want to choose between 3 and 5 themes that you want to explore consistently. When we had Roy Reese give a presentation on Instagram, he called them pillars, right? So it can be themes, it can be pillars, but you want to be consistent. People like to know what they can expect, right? What they can expect from your feed. So, you know, one pillar or one theme can be in the studio, right? One theme can be inspiration, you know, like I'm thinking of Erica who goes in the nature for inspiration on her work. Well, maybe a theme, one of her themes on Instagram, maybe it is already, I don't know, but pillars can be, you know, inspiration. So when she goes in the nature, she takes pictures, she puts that on her feed. It can be work in progress, it can be events, it can be, and it really depends also on what your message and values that you want to convey, right? I'm gonna hop off this. I want to show you because I think it's really relevant here. I want to show you the feed of Sophie. So Sophie, she's an artist, but you know, she's very much into I'm gonna put this so you can see her. Can you see her? Okay, here it is. Then now you can see better. Okay, so she's very much into meditation, mindfulness, going to the nature. So as you can see in her feed is very cohesive in the way that she presents her artwork, right? And the way she presents it, it's always, the decors are very Scandinavian, very wide, very pure, a lot of white spaces. But also, when you read her captions, or if you look at other images, because her work is inspired by nature, of course, she takes pictures and she shares pictures of what inspires her in nature. But then when you start reading the captions, and I invite you to go see her feed, she will talk about how nature inspires her, her meditation, mindfulness, and experiences that she has on mindfulness and meditation with her family, and how nature has influenced her and her work. Okay, so here she talks about knitting and meditation, different things like that, right? So maybe you're not at all, like, it doesn't, I'm not saying that you have to be into meditation or mindfulness, but you need to bring some flavor into it. Like, what is it about you, and what is it that you want people to be sharing and engaging on with you on your feed? If you're just consistently just pushing information on there of work in progress, finished work, work in progress, finished work, it can work. Maybe you're looking at a feed of an artist that already has a following, that already has that collector base. So it works. They just push the information, and it works because they already have that critical mass, right? But when you're growing, you need to differentiate yourself. You need to be different. You need to be very clear so that people say, oh yeah, Sophie, yes, I know that artist. She makes like those watercolor landscapes, and she's all about mindfulness and stillness and nature. Oh yeah, I know her. I really adhere to her message. It really resonates with me. I love it, right? So you see the difference here. I'm going to show you Charmaine Olivia's. So you see hers is like completely different. Like the colors are more acid, you know, they're stronger. You'll see her in her studio. You'll see her showing her work, what she stands for, some quotes of what she stands for. So the colors, right? You can see here, it's so different things that she sees that resonate with her, that inspire her. The colors are very different. The feed is much more busy, but that's what she's all about. That's what she's all about, and that's what she's sharing with her fans. don't know if you've noticed, but both of them in their description talk about sales. So here she says she's already preparing you that she's going to have new originals available on February 3rd. And here Sophie uses Instagram to let you know that all her prints are currently on sale. Okay, so she's using her feed to tell you what's going on in her business and in her art. Feel free to oh no, what did I do here? No, I don't want to do that. Sorry. Feel free to interrupt me if you have comments or questions on what I'm talking about right now. Okay, so that's what I meant so just going back to the basics. So by seeing these feeds, it gives you an idea of what I'm talking about, how to use your profile bio and how to present photos on your feed. Okay, many of you have asked how to use hashtags. Okay, so here I'm going to give you a few best practices. So basically hashtags are the pound sign, right? The pound sign that we use before words on Instagram. So again, getting clear on who you want to reach, right? Who you want to reach, so that you can use hashtags that person is searching. So it's fun to invent, hashtags and have fun with hashtags, and I encourage you to do it if you want to once in a while. But if you're inventing hashtags, how will people find them, right? They won't find them. So you want to do the research, go on feeds of people so you can go on your own feed and see who's following you and identify people. Maybe some of them are your buyers, or some of them are people who have been really active on your page, and try to see what hashtags they're using, right? So you'll want to use a good balance of hashtags that are related to your work, to the arts, to what you're doing. But not only that, you want to use hashtags that your audience is using, because that's how they will find you. Hopefully I'm clear here, but it's really more about knowing what others are using than what you want to use. Another thing is using hashtag to reach specific audience. So if you want to promote a local event, if you want to promote something that's happening, you want to use maybe hashtags that have the name of your city or the name of the place that you're going to be showing, because this is going to attract this is going to attract people locally. So there's a debate on where you should be putting your hashtags. Ideally, you don't put them right after your caption. So what some people, if you're writing your caption for your photo, don't put the hashtags right after. So some people, what they do like they lower it. So they space it out and then they put the hashtags. So that's one way to do it. Or you can simply post and then in the comment add a hashtag, which is not a bad idea, knowing that Instagram is looking for engagement, and that the more likes, comments you have, the more visible your post is going to be in the algorithm. So if you're posting your hashtags in the comments, you're basically adding a comment to your photo, which is good to do. So how to keep track of all these hashtags, right? Because like I said, I'm going to say it later, but I'll say it now. You can use up to 30 hashtags on every post, and I definitely recommend that you use them all up. And when you are doing your research, okay, create categories of hashtags. Okay, so you're doing your research and maybe you do categories of 10 hashtags. So maybe 10 local hashtags, 10 art hashtags, 10 color hashtags, 10 mom hashtags if you're trying to reach moms, 10 meditation hashtags if you're into meditation, 10 whatever. Okay, so create groups of hashtags that you and then save them in on an app on your phone, like a notebook app or something like that. And every time you post a photo, all you have to do is to go back in those notes and copy paste 3 of those categories in your hashtags, and you're done. Okay, you're done. Then you can interchange those, and I recommend that you maybe review your list every 90 days or something like that, but then you're good to go. Hopefully I'm clear on the way to do this. And also that's a question I often get. So how do I choose my hashtags? Should I choose hashtags that have, because when you're writing a hashtag, you'll see the number of posts that are also using that hashtag. So the goal is not to use hashtags that are overused, because when people are looking for hashtags, searching, exploring hashtags, if there's like 10 million posts, it's going to be very difficult for you to be on top. If there's very little people that are using a hashtag, it means it's not a popular hashtag. No one is really looking for it, so there's no point in using it. So you want to kind of position yourself in a space where the hashtags you are using have about 5 to 500,000 posts. Don't go over 500,000, but and you can try to have, like, when you're doing your list and when you're researching, try to have some that are more, some that are less, but try to stay in that range, or it's going to be very, very difficult to find you. Any questions about hashtags? No? Okay. Okay, now about posting, okay? So like I said earlier, Instagram now has a algorithm like Facebook. Well, it's not as intense yet as Facebook, but it still is one. So you need to learn to live with it. And so the more engagement you have, the more you will show up in people's feeds, right? So you need to go back into your last maybe 6, 7, 8 posts. And okay, I can't read your comment, so that's why I want you to interrupt me. I can't read your comments. Where is it? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, can you tell us again why the hashtag should be separate from the caption? Because, okay, so for 2 reasons, Bonnie. First, it makes it very heavy to read. And if you're also, another reason why you shouldn't put it in your caption is because if you're doing a direct publishing on Facebook, it makes your Facebook, because you can link your Instagram account to your Facebook account, and every time you post on Instagram, you can decide if you want that image to be posted on Facebook. And if if you use the same post on Facebook, it's going to look really bad on Facebook to have that huge list of hashtags. Okay, so and it makes it like, if you're using all 30 hashtags, let's say you have a little caption that's like 2 sentences, and then you have a huge list of it looks spammy. Basically, it just looks spammy. It doesn't really look good. So you want to either put it at the bottom, or, like I said, put it in the comments. It's going to look much cleaner on your feed. Okay, going back to my slide. Yeah. So I was saying, oh, now I see oh, that's nice. Now I can see the chat. Okay, I couldn't see it earlier, but now you can all see all my slides, right? Anyway. Yeah, so like I was saying, go back to maybe the last 9 or 12 or 15 photos that you posted and look at, people are going to give you the answer, right? Um, See what people are liking, see what people are commenting on. And as you do your research on what you want to do, give them more of that, right? Give them more of that. You need to listen to what people are asking you. And they're not going to say, oh, I'm excited about this, give me more of it. But you'll see if they're liking, if they're commenting, that's what they're excited about. But again, caveat, buyers are not necessarily the ones who engage the most, right? So you need to keep a good balance, because you do want to get engagement, because the more you get engagement, the more visible you are, right? So the more chances you are that you will reach your buyer. But doesn't mean that your buyer is engaging, which means you still need to put offers out there, because even if your offers are not necessarily exciting your fans, that's fine, because your buyers aren't necessarily engaging and they're waiting for you to make that offer. So that's why it's always like a game of balance between giving them what they want and the value and the engagement, so you're visible, but then also positioning yourself and the offers so that people who want to buy will get that opportunity. And of course, it's all about telling a story, right? Because even when you're making an offer, it's not just about posting the image, the price, the sale, and the price, and then contact me to purchase, right? There needs to be a story, how you share what this piece is about, why you're sharing it with them today as opposed to any other day. Those are all things that need to be thought of when you're doing it. And also, these are things that you will get better at the more you do it. Storytelling is really practice makes perfect kind of thing. Okay. And always, and we talked about that before, have a call to action with each post. And a call to action doesn't mean necessarily sign up to my newsletter or buy my art. Okay, that's not necessarily a call to action that you have to do. Really, in terms of best practices, buy my art and sign up to my newsletter should be done maybe 20% of the time. And then 80% of the time should be more about engagement, right? So it can be asking a question and asking them, their opinion on something, telling them to double tap if they like this piece, tagging a friend. So asking people to tag a friend should be something that you do on a regular basis. Give them a reason to tag a friend, but should be something, because when you're asking them to tag a friend and you're giving them a reason to do so, they're basically sending people on your feed, and these people, after, you can go on their feed, like, comment, and ultimately there will be a relationship, and then that can lead to some more people following you. There was a statistic that I really liked when I was reading an expert giving some insight on Instagram, and they said to follow the 5-3-1 rule. The 5-3-1 rule means 5 likes, 3 comments usually equals a like. Okay, so if you're on Instagram every day and your goal is to go on Instagram and like 5 photos, comment on 3 photos, you'll usually lead to someone liking you back. Okay, so if you like 5 photos of someone, comment on 3 of that person's photos, it will usually lead into that person liking you back. Another tip that was given, which I found was very, very useful, which I personally don't do for Instagram, but I do in other parts of my business, and I think, and I tell you to do that for other things, but I think it's relevant for Instagram too, is keep a list of accounts that you want to be top of mind of, okay? For instance, it might be difficult for collectors and buyers, but let's say you want to use Instagram to get visible for, get in front of a gallery. Or you want to use Instagram to be top of mind for a brand that you would like your work to be licensed in. It would have to be a smaller brand, but just an example. Maybe a designer that you'd like that person to notice you. So we talked about that with Kathy last week. But keeping a list of accounts that you want to be top of mind with, and every day that you are on Instagram, you visit those accounts and you make sure to comment, you make sure to like, so that that person sees that you are active. And when you are active, you are helping that person, because the more active you are means more engagement that person has on their feed, the more visible their feed becomes, right? The rule said that you will get a follow. Sorry, Bonnie. The rule is supposedly about a follow, getting a follow. So it shows. So it's really just making sure that you're top of mind with the people you want to be visible with, and not keeping that up to chance. So the more you give them engagement, the better it is for them, and the more chances that they'll remember you and they'll enjoy having you on their feed. Okay, so we wanted to talk about contests and giveaways. So a lot of people were asking, is it a good idea to do contests? Is it a good idea to do a giveaway? There are pros and cons. I think it can be a good way for you to grow your following. We just need to be careful, because we want to grow our following with the right people, right? So we might want to do a giveaway or a contest for more low ticket items, so like prints or things like that, or for printing our work on items, specific items or something like that. If we're looking at attracting high-end buyers, maybe a contest or a giveaway isn't really the thing to do, because we're going to attract people who want to win. But when we're going to make an offer for a high ticket item, are they really going to want to invest in that, right? So we need to be very clear about who we want to reach, so we can have a strategy that works with what we want to do. So the first thing we want to do is choose a theme, right? What is our contest about, right? Why are we doing a contest? What is the theme? What is it about? What mechanism we're going to use to do a contest, and what's going to be the timeline of that contest. It's going to be a 1-day thing, a 3-day thing, a 10-day thing. What is it then? What are we going to do? So there's different options that you can use for your contest. Those are 3 that I like, that I've seen, that are not too difficult to execute. So one could be a like to win contest, right? So everybody who you release a new print, you do a contest. Everybody who likes that print, likes that image of the print, enters to win a free edition of the print, right? So that's one. It's quite easy, can grow engagement, can grow excitement, but that's all. Like, it's not really going to help you. It's not really going to help you grow your following, or it's not really going to serve you in other purposes, the like to win. So it's basically a way to reward your existing followers. Now, hashtag user-generated content is different. So maybe you want to do you're releasing a series of prints, and they're all in the tones of red. I'm inventing this, but just to give you an idea. So you want to, you know, and it's in the fall, and so, and you want to create, so you create a hashtag fall, you know, fall is for red. I'm just inventing, but so you're creating a hashtag, and then you're inviting your followers to generate content, right? So maybe to post an image on their feed that's red, and to use that hashtag, right? So fall is for red. And then for a certain period of time, you promote it, you promote that contest, and then at the end of the contest, you can search that hashtag, fall is for red. You need to make sure that it's a hashtag that's never been used, right? So that you're inventing a hashtag, and then you can go through all the hashtags and then pick a winner depending on what the winner is. Is it the person who uses that hashtag and get the most likes, or is it just jurying and you'll choose the photo that you prefer or whatever? But that's user generated hashtag, and that can be great to increase your visibility, because usually people will tag you to make sure you see it. They'll say that it's they're posting this image in the context of your contest. So their followers will be intrigued, they might want to participate, and that might, you know, grow your following. It's going to grow your reach. So you're basically using your fans to grow your reach. So hashtag user-generated content is a good way to create a contest that excites your followers, but also serves your personal goal of growing your following. Another one is opt-in to win, which is kind of one of my favorites, because you know that I always want you to grow your email list, because your email list or contact list or whatever we call it doesn't have an algorithm, and you get to bring it with you when you leave. So opt-in to win can be a great way to get more people on your email list, and everybody who's on your email list then enters the draw. Promotion, okay? So even if you're doing that's a tip, that's a Catherine's tip. Even if you're doing your contest on Instagram, don't just use Instagram to promote it, right? Use your other channel to promote your contest on Instagram, because that way you can send your Facebook fans to your Instagram. And then, because remember what I said about, you know, people need 7 touch points usually to buy from you. They need to have seen your message at least 7 times. So if you want to increase your chances of them seeing your message, seeing your art, seeing your work, then you want to see them and touch them on multiple platforms. So promote your contest on your different platforms, and promote it before you start, right? To create excitement, to create anticipation, to set people up for it. Promote it while it's happening, and promote it after. Let people know, when you're doing it. Let people know after who won. Follow up with, maybe have a picture of that person, and maybe do a profile of that person who wins. But really, the more you promote your contest, the more you talk about it, the more it's going to serve your own personal objectives, goals, okay? And contests create partnerships to widen your reach, right? So check in with influencers, with bloggers, I asked actually Sophie Melville, I showed you her Instagram before, who has like over 5,000 followers. I asked her, like, how did you get 5,000 followers? And she got them by creating partnerships and giveaways. So reaching out to bloggers, to influencers, and offering them to do a contest with them, offering them a print that they could give away, and to their followers, and doing shootouts and things like that, right? So doing joint partnerships, because growing Instagram is basically like growing anything else, right? You can do it organically, you can do it through partnerships, or you can do it through paid advertising. So, but partnerships are a great way to do those. Kathy is asking, what is the recommended split between the things you're selling? Oops, I can't. I'm just seeing part of your, okay, question. What is the recommended split between post the things you're selling from my life, repost? I think I do too much of the thing I'm selling, and I haven't gotten into reposting at all yet. Reposting, I don't know so much, but I would say that it's usually 80-20, Kathy. So 80% selling and 20% selling, 80% not necessarily from my life, but value content, right? Sharing. So it can be from your life, it can be inspiration, it can be in your studio, it can be, getting people excited about something that's coming up, right? A teaser. It can be, what else? Inspiration, events you're going at, events you're attending, things like that. Hopefully that answered. Okay, so other ways to use Instagram. Okay, so Instagram stories, which you've probably heard of. So it's kind of like Snapchat, but it isn't, like I said at the beginning, because Instagram stories, you still need to stay on message, you still need to stay on brand. So if your account is very branded with your art and your inspiration and your events, don't do Instagram stories on what you had for lunch, right? You want to stay on brand with your stories as well. They're a great opportunity to get in front of people who are just looking at stories. So I was reading that since that functionality started, some people are addicted to them and they just look at those now. So it's really, it gets you'll get in front of people much easier than through the algorithm. So if you're enjoying stories, you should try it. Keep it short, right? So you don't want to have stories that are too long. Like I said, you want to stick with your themes. You want to direct people to something, right? Because there's not really commenting. They can message you, but that's all. So you want to give them a call to action to do something, whether it's direct them to your website or something else. And remember that with the stories that you're uploading on Instagram, you still can reuse that content on other platforms, right? So you want to repurpose your content, because like I keep reminding you, you want to create 20% of the time your content and then repurpose and reshare it more often. I'm seeing a question here. Oops. I can't always get to it. That's just weird. Uh-oh, what happened? I don't know what happened. Okay, I'll go back. I never understood stories. Is it multiple images? Can you describe how it looks? Okay, so it's really, yeah, it's multiple images. Basically, you're doing what just happened there? So you're basically doing you're uploading a series of images, right? And, or it can be a video that you upload, Bonnie. Personally, I've seen a few people do it really well. It really depends on the type of audience that you have. Like if they are on stories, you can test it, see if it works for them. Okay, now it's back. I haven't seen it work really well for a lot of people, but yeah, so it's basically photos that you're uploading, but together. So you'll upload like 10 photos, so people will see the photos one after the other, and it will tell a story. So, like for instance, if you're releasing a set of prints, stories can be a good way to present the body of work, right? Because you can upload, if you have 6 or 8 different prints that you're presenting, that you're releasing, then you could upload those 8 images one after the other, so people get to see all at once in one story your whole series, right? So that's an example of how you can do it. It can also be, let's say, a way to, if you're doing a show and you take a few photos as you set up your show, and then the opening, and then you at the show, so you're giving like the story of your opening day, right? So you're arriving, you're setting up, then you're welcoming guests, then you're giving a speech, and then it's the story of your opening. So that's how you could use Instagram stories. On the other hand, a very, very new a new feature of Instagram is to do live video. So if you're looking at the top of your Instagram where there are stories, now there's something that's usually flashing, and that's live video. Okay, so here's the difference between live video on Instagram. The huge difference, live Instagram and live Facebook, is that live on Instagram disappears the second that you close the camera. So once the broadcast is over, it's finished. People cannot access that content again. So personally, I would stick to Facebook live streams, because if you want to do live streams, Facebook will really reward you if you do them on their platform, because they're really giving top rank, top visibility to live streaming on Facebook. And once you close the camera, once you're done, the video is still there. People that are coming in later can still watch it, comment on it. You can download that video and use it on other platforms. So for a bunch of reasons, my recommendation is to stick, for now, at least for now, to live streams on Facebook. Now, I want you guys to do live streams. So if you are nervous about doing live streams, if you're not so confident about it, you want to practice, well, maybe Instagram can be a good way to do it, because it'll disappear, right? So if it doesn't go well, then it's not there. Once you're done, it disappears. You won't have to see it over and over again on your feed. Although on Facebook, you can just decide to delete it if you don't like it. Oh, and by the way, you'll never like them, but you still have to do them. You'll get more comfortable. But if you watch yourself after, sometimes I watch like 2 minutes of a live that I do. I'm like, this is ridiculous, but that's the fun part of live, right? That's the fun part of live. It's live, so you never know what's going to happen. Another way I was thinking, because it was like, okay, let's say what would be a good way to use live video on Instagram? I was trying to think of positive things to say about it. And one of the things you could do, I was thinking, is if you use it with a combination of other channels. So if you make it like and like a show or an appointment, a rendezvous, right? So you tell people maybe on your email list or maybe on your Facebook that today at 2 o'clock, I will be, you know, announcing something completely unexpected, something completely new, and I will announce it live on Instagram, and be there or miss it, right? So that could be something you can do, because then you're using your other channels to direct people to Instagram, and then but they need to know, you need to tell them what time you'll be on so that they can tune in, right? Because if they miss it, they miss it. It won't be there ever again. So that's why, I mean, I don't find, unless you're someone who just like loves doing live and super comfortable and you can do live anytime, and or you have a really, really big following, so you know that there's going to be a mass available to watch you whenever you do it, then it could be a good opportunity. But knowing many of you and the time that you have to spend on this, I say stick to Facebook if you want to do live streams, or have really a strategy to support your live video on Instagram, because if not, then you're really you're not using your time properly. Okay, so yeah, so advertising on Instagram has become pay-to-play platforms. So Instagram is still a work in progress. Many industries will tell you don't advertise yet on Instagram. It's because it's still a work in progress. But in my opinion, what I've seen for the art world, it's a little bit different because of its very visual sense. So it can be very interesting to grow your visibility on Instagram because of it's very visual, that you want to create a visual impact. You can use basically your post. Okay, so at the bottom of your post, you can use a post that you've already done, and there's an option, because you're a business account, to just a little bit like Facebook, like not boost, but it'll give you more questions of what you want to do, and you can do that. Or you can do it through Facebook, because now when you're doing Facebook advertisement, whether it's through the Facebook Power Editor or I've started using Adespresso, which is like a very, very, it's such a great tool to use to do Facebook ads. Your ads will be much more powerful if you use the Power Editor or the Adespresso versus just boosting a post. And you will get, and then you can do advertisements that are both on Instagram and on Facebook, and see what works best. And if you use tools like Adespresso, you'll get a really, really good feedback and data as to what worked where, so you'll know if Instagram ads are good for you, if they're working for you. Okay, so a few tips to help you with your Instagram. First, batch your content. Okay, so we were talking about earlier, maybe one of your sources of inspiration are going to the nature. Well, if you're going in the nature and you take one picture, take 10, take 20, and have them, right? Have them handy, so that you're not always asking yourself, oh, what will I post today, right? So you have images. So when you're in a photo editor, whatever photo editor tool you use that you like, don't just edit one photo, edit 10, right? So you'll have them. And that's something you can do maybe at the beginning of every month or at the beginning of every quarter, depending. But because once you're in flow, right? You know, when we talked about time and task management and task switching, and how you're always you're losing time every time you're task switching, you're losing 20% of your productivity. Well, once you start getting into that flow and it becomes like, okay, you get it and you're editing and you're in a flow, then do more, because next time you're going to go back, you're still going to have to take that 20% of time to get back into that flow. So you're better off blocking time in your calendar and doing more than one. Use Dropbox to organize your content. The great thing is that with Dropbox, you can basically edit photos on your desktop, because I know a lot of people like, why can't I use Instagram on my desktop? No, you can't. You have, if you want to post images onto Instagram, you need to do it on your mobile device, right? But sometimes editing photos, if you want to put text on them, it's going to be easier. And if you're batching content, it's going to be easier and it's going to go faster if you do it on your desktop computer. So you can install Dropbox, and it's free, on your computer, on your phone. And then once you've organized your content and you've organized your photos and even your captions and even your hashtags, you put them all in your Dropbox, and then you access them from your phone when you're ready to post. Create and stick to your list of hashtags and review them every quarter. Like I said, you want to get clear on the hashtags you want to use, and you want to use them consistently. They don't have to be always, you want to use them in a way that are general enough. You want to choose them in a way that are general enough that they can be used often on your posts, okay? And you're not always trying to figure out what hashtag I'm going to use today. And repurposing your content as much as possible, right? So if you're creating images, well, use them maybe on your website, or use them on Facebook, or use them on Pinterest. The captions, maybe you take a caption and you repurpose it into a blog, or you repurpose it into a short newsletter that you send to your followers, right? So you want to look at how that message, because you want to share your message in an ongoing way, so how you can repeat it, so people, the more you repeat it, the more people remember it. And if you want to go beyond the data that Instagram is giving you, there are apps such as Iconosquare that'll keep track of your data and statistics, because you might have noticed that I haven't told you like this is the best time of the day to post, or if you want to reach more, these people post in the morning, or things like that, because shorter captions, longer captions. I can't tell you this because no two audiences are the same. So to know if it's better for you to post in the morning or in the evening, or to write longer posts or shorter posts, you need to test them out and then look at what's working, what's working and what isn't working. So apps like Iconosquare can help you. And I didn't mention that, but you can also, I didn't write it, but I'm going to mention it. You can use applications like Hootsuite or Later to help you plan your posts. Okay, so you can plan your post schedule. Schedule was the word I was looking for. You can schedule your posts on Hootsuite or on Later as you are batching your content, right? So instead of posting them live, you could use those as well if you find that useful. But again, it's not enough, right? Even if you're batching your content and you're posting it through a scheduling tool, then you still need to block some time in your week, a couple of times a week at least, to go back on your feed and interact with people who've left you comments, but also go and engage with people you want to stay top of mind with. So you want to always have time, keep time to do that as well for Instagram to work for you. So voila, that's it for me today. So as you might have noticed, it's all about building relationships, right? When we're selling, we want to build relationships. So whether we do them on social media, whether we do them live in events, whether we do them through our newsletter, whether we do them one-on-one, it's all about building relationships. Because people buy from people they like, know, and trust. So that's how you want to use Instagram to build the know, like, and trust factor. And I think today the topics we talked about could help you. You want to create space in your calendar to build those relationships, right? Not just post and leave, but create space for it. And come on the Facebook group if you have more questions. I'm going to take more questions now. So, have questions. But if you're trying things, I'm happy to look at it. Okay, so about batching content. Okay, so, oops, no, I wanted to unmute you, Bonnie. Okay, so Bonnie had a question. What do I mean by batching content? I mean that as you're planning your content, so let's say you want to create a series of photos of works in progress or inspiration or in the studio. Don't do just one at the time, right? Create many of them, edit them, make them all nice and pretty, and then my recommendation is put them all in a Dropbox, okay? Because that way you can then take them from your Dropbox and post, because you'll have the Dropbox app on your phone, you'll have it on your desktop, so you're working, you're writing your captions, maybe in a Word document or whatever. You're preparing your photos, you're doing your calendar, you're doing your hashtags, all of those there, you put them in your Dropbox, and then when you're on your phone, you can upload your images directly from your Dropbox. You can go and copy paste content that you wrote in a Word document in your Dropbox in your Instagram. So did that answer, Bonnie? Did that make it clear?
I think so. It's just I like the idea, but I find that it keeps more current if I'm doing it one by one, because it's more actual. Like, oh, this is what's happened today, and then, oh wow, look at this inspiration today, and look at, sort of. Whereas I like the idea of batching for my functionality, but in terms of keeping real and keeping to what's going on in my life at the time, I have no way to predict, in a couple of weeks. Like, I don't know if that's going to go with what I want to post that day.
Yeah, well, I think you're absolutely right, and I think it's having a balance of doing in the moment what's going on now, but then also having a backup plan, because life is what life is, right? Mm-hmm. So if for any reason you're in a situation where you haven't posted for 5 days and you're like, oh, I'd like to be posting something, maybe you post something that's more evergreen, right? Maybe it's an inspirational quote that you found that you like, that you created with an image of your work, or if you share images of your children on your Instagram, maybe you have a few photos there that you can use. It's to have something so you're not always dependent on if you're available that day to take half an hour to create something that's going to work for you.
Right.
Okay. It's just to create balance. So for instance, I'm right now preparing a series of quotes that I'm going to use on my Instagram, and I'm going to use them with photos. So my photos are going to be more in the moment, that I'm going to take the photos in the moment, but I'm always going to have like quotes, images with quotes on them, inspirational quotes that I can use when I'm not in a position where I can take an image that day, or I'm just not in the mood that day to take photos, right?
Right.
So you can have different because, like, let's say you're taking a photo, setting up the easel, right? So maybe that day you are setting up your easel to work, but your room is a mess and you don't really feel like cleaning it up. So, but you have a bunch of images that you took a day that your studio was clean on setting up. So you can use it as setting up your easel for work today. Does that make sense what I mean there? So it's like it's still in the moment. What you're writing is in the moment. It just this happens that the photo you took it when your space looked maybe better than it's looking at the moment that you want to put it on. But it's very personal. It's very personal because some people find that it's just too much to get into it every time they have an inspiration. Some other people are much more natural in taking good photos. Like I take very, very bad photos. Like even my life depended on it. Like my photos always look bad. So I really have to work on them. So I try to do the most that I can in advance, because if not, it takes too much time. But other people, they're just like, click, and the photo is amazing. You're just like, how did you do that? And I don't have the answer. So. Okay, Kathy asked, I had posted this question on Facebook. Is it worth the time to go back and hashtag old images that I posted, or no, or only a few hashtags at a time, or is it better to repost them with a good and updated hashtag? Okay, I don't think, no, it depends how long ago those pictures were taken, but it won't bring them back up necessarily, Kathy. You could hashtag them. But it's not necessarily going to bring them back up on the algorithm. So I was reading about that the other day, and it's not necessarily the best. You could, but the answers that I got about that were very vague, that you're not really going to get much more on them if you do it, because they're very low now in the, like, because the top hashtags are going to appear, especially because, on the explore page, because that's where you want to appear with your hashtags if people are exploring that hashtag. But since your photo is dated, it's still going to be at the bottom.
Okay.
So it's not going to bring it back up, if that was your question.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking maybe, if searching for that hashtag and it could be on that picture, but I don't know if people do that a whole lot. Or...
Well, people will search for hashtags that they want to look for something. So for instance, using for you, using local hashtags could make a lot of sense, because you have some images that are very specific to some areas, geographic areas. Mm-hmm. So people might be looking for that, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what you need to think about. Like, what are people looking for? And if you just for fun, I asked just before the call, I was looking I was just searching hashtag art. And it's such a mess, everything you find there, right? Because there's just everything and anything is art, right? But then if you start doing hashtags that are much more specific to maybe what somebody would be looking for, and that your work would appeal to them, right? So since you have New England beaches or things like that, that's maybe something that you would want to use as a hashtag.
Okay.
Because that's what someone would be looking for.
Right. Yeah. So that was I started working on all these hashtags, and then I thought, is it already a lost picture? Is it not going to do anything? But I guess then yeah, if people are looking for it, then.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll try you and see what happens.
I'm sorry I missed that, Kathy. I couldn't hear you.
Maybe I'll just try a few and see what happens. If I get a lot of hits all of a sudden on them or likes, then I know it's working.
Yeah, and also use the explore page, right? So explore that hashtag, see what comes up when you put that hashtag, and then okay, and who's using it, right? Who's using it? Okay, well, if you see who's using it and you think, okay, these are people, so you know they're using New England beaches and it's all like beautiful people's houses on the beach, and they're using that hashtag to show off their property, show off their decor, show off, you know, things like that, then you're like, okay, this is a good hashtag to use because the people who are using it are the people I want to reach.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's more about seeing who's using them. It's not about if it makes sense to you, because you're not looking for you. The same way that, so you want them to find you when they're doing searches. So if you want to be in front of the designer, then you need to go and see what that designer is using in terms of hashtags, because chances are that's what they're looking for also. The same thing with galleries, right? So, you know, the hashtag, I'm going to be very general here, but contemporary art, for instance, will probably not be used by people who have an enjoyment in art and purchase art for leisure, but it probably used by people in the industry and gallery owners and curators and what's the word I'm looking for? Art consultants, right?
Mm.
So depending on what your goal is and who's that audience that you want to reach, you're gonna choose different type of hashtags. Pretty sure that curators are not using art is my hashtag art is my life, right? So or life of an artist hashtag. So that's why you need to be strategic in the choices that you make.
Okay.
Good. Anybody else here
Thank you.
that has a question, a comment, something that's unclear, a challenge for me? You're all very quiet today. Okay. Maybe it's because I gave you all the information you needed. But I think probably for most of you, it's not so much new information that maybe just needed a reminder, a refresher that, yeah, I think I'm going to leave you with this. You're probably not doing anything wrong. And a lot of you are asking me like, what am I doing wrong with my Instagram? And probably the thing you're doing wrong is you're not fully into it, right? And I know it's difficult because we all have so much going on, but you're not fully committed to that process because it is a process. So you're not necessarily doing something right or wrong most of the time. You're just not fully engaged in the process and taking the time and being active into growing it. And it just takes patience. So anyway, if any of you have any more questions, want any feedback, feel free to post on the group, especially if you watch this replay as a replay on the members area and you're unclear about certain things maybe I talked about. Some of you are more advanced than others. So don't be shy if you're just starting out and you have no idea. We all started with 0 followers, and everybody started with 0 followers and had to build. So I'm happy to have conversations, share tips, and keep you motivated if you like. So if there's no more questions, I'm seeing the time flies. So I'm going to let you all go, and I'll be available on the Facebook group if you have questions. I have internet now. So take care, everyone. Have a lovely week, and yeah, we'll talk soon, okay? Bye.